Hi, everyone. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, I'll give you a few minutes to come into the room and join me. I'm Mrs. Q. Give everyone a few minutes. A lot of times it takes a few minutes for people to realize I'm here and to join me in the room. Miss Harlow is here. Miss Harlow, did you go to the Flag Day parade today in Lower Manhattan? Miss Kane is here on YouTube. Hello. Just wondering if anyone saw the Flag Day parade in Lower Manhattan today, where some of my good friends were participating from the Sons of the American Revolution. Hold on just one moment. I just realized there's something I wanted to show you tonight that I left out of camera range. Hold on, I'm going to get it. I'll be right back. Okay, I found what I'm looking for. So I hope everyone is doing, oh, Terry, oh, Miss Harlow, you missed it. Well, I hope they had a great time. I was going to join them, but I found something else I had to do today, so I wasn't able to join them. Mr. Facemeyer, Mr. Davis, hello, everyone. It's so good to see everyone tonight. I don't know how it's doing there, but it is thundering and lightning here, so you might hear some thunder in the background. Um, oh, the McCabe's are here. Oh, Mrs. McCabe is here in Virginia. Mr. McCabe is working. Mr. Nelson is here. Hello, everyone. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I thought tonight I would talk a little bit about the year 1776. Oh, I see Miss Harlow says see you in July. She must have bought tickets for the July tour. So before I get started, she has reminded me that I should remind you that tickets for my July 9th tour with Francis Tavern Museum are on sale now. You can find them at francistavernmuseum.org. And that will be Sunday, July 9th at 11 a.m. That is the anniversary of the reading of the Declaration of Independence. I will be there as Mrs. Q, talking all about New York's role in the American Revolution. It's about a 2 to 2.5 hour tour. It's great fun. This is the third year I'll be doing it with them. And if you're in the New York City area, please pick up tickets and join us. Your ticket sale goes to benefit the Francis Tavern Museum. So it's a good cause. You come out, so spend some time with Mrs. Q and also help out the museum and learn about American history also. And I have some more people joining. If you are in the Facebook group, I can't see your name, so you might want to tell me your name. But if you're on regular Facebook, I can see you. Miss An is here. Great to see everyone. So that's July 9th. Before July 9th, if you're in the New York City area, September 24th, Saturday, is the Staten Island Summer of Shorts Film Festival. Come out to Staten Island. Those tickets will benefit the Old Dutch Reformed Church in Staten Island, one of the oldest churches in New York. And I will be there as Mrs. Q, and I will be conducting interviews on the red carpet. So I'll be interviewing the filmmakers and performers as they go in to watch their films and get their awards. So please come out to Staten Island and join us if you can. It's a great way to help out the church. I will also be speaking at the church in July about the Mercer Spy Ring, and that will be another opportunity for you to buy some tickets. Come out and spend some time at the church. We'll also be doing a tour of the graveyard at that time, and that will also be a live streaming event. And all of those ticket sales will go to benefit the church. I'm volunteering my time for that, so please help us out with the Dutch Reformed Church. So speaking of my upcoming appearances, I am working on a new jacket. So this is a full dress and it goes all the way down to the floor, but can make kind of a jacket version of this that is much shorter. And I found some wonderful fabric today. Don't know how well it's going to show up on the camera, but it is a, oh, I don't think you can see it. If you're on my social media, I posted it. It is a beautiful sheer linen fabric with some leaf embroidery on it that I'm going to use to make a summer jacket for Mrs. Q, and hope it comes out good. On social media, I also posted the jacket I'm copying, which has a lot of very detailed and difficult trim work on it. So the trim is going to be the hard part of this. And as I make it, I'll be documenting it on Facebook, some video on YouTube, and also on Instagram. So you'll be able to see that project as it goes along, and I hope it's going to be successful. Also later tonight, I have another short coming out. If you've been watching my shorts on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, I have a short coming out tonight about the biggest social event of the Revolutionary War, John Andres Mesquianza in Philadelphia. And those are my history in a New York Minute shorts, and I hope you'll watch them, like them, and support my work. It's a great way for you to learn about history in just 1 minute. I have a whole series of those, so please subscribe to my channels, like those, share them, and help me out because I can hopefully raise some revenue if you like my videos on YouTube and Facebook. So for tonight's subject is 1776 and what is happening in 1776. And the story we learn about 1776, of course, is all about the Declaration of Independence. And I'm going to do a rare thing today, but from the 18th century, I'm going to recommend a 21st century book for all of you. And it's this one. If you can see it, there it is. It's Revolutionary Summer by Joseph Ellis. This book goes into detail of what I will be speaking about tonight. It follows the two timelines, the Philadelphia timeline and the New York timeline, and of course London, and explains to us why those timelines are intersecting and why just the Philadelphia story is not the only important thing happening. So please pick that up if you're interested. Revolutionary Summer, Joseph Ellis. It is very readable and it is very good. Highly recommended that you read the book. So it's 1776. I am Mrs. Q. Welcome to my private parlor, and I hope you had no problem getting here tonight in the storm and the rain. I hope you're dry and you're comfortable and ready for us to spend some time together. So here we are. It's 1776, and all sorts of unusual things are happening. Of course, we know that our Congress is meeting in Philadelphia, and they are speaking about the possibility of claiming our independency from England. Now, it's puzzling to me as why it has taken our representatives so long to come to the conclusion that this is the right thing for us to do, that this is the correct path. Now, you might know Mr. Adams has been there for quite a long time trying to convince the delegates to this convention that the English are not going to stop their invasion in Massachusetts. They are desperate in Massachusetts. They have been fighting them off for a year. It is a brutal military occupation of their land. They are dying, they are starving, and of course the rest of us have been doing the best we can to support them. Mr. Adams has been trying to explain to the Congress that the English are not stopping in Massachusetts, that they will be coming south to subdue all of the colonies, and no one, including our own representatives in New York, seem to be understanding that this is the truth. And of course, I mean no slander to Mr. Livingston, Mr. Duane, and Mr. Jay, and the others who are representing us, but you would think by now, June of 1776, they would be seeing the light of the truth of the matter. They don't seem to be, though. So all of this time, this fighting, this terrible fighting has been going on in Massachusetts, quite horrible and shocking to all of us. Mr. Adams and the delegate from Massachusetts have been trying to convince everyone that this will be their fate. And of course, the Southerners see that this has nothing to do with them. They consider themselves to be far away and not at all interested in this. It is time that these colonies stop behaving as separate countries who do not like each other and see that we must unite as one joined force against our oppressor Britain, that it is the only way we will survive. And personally, I do not understand why these gentlemen have not yet come to this conclusion, especially the gentlemen in New York. So while they're all debating and complaining and hollering and arguing and disagreeing, and I hear arguing in Philadelphia over how high or how low to keep the window, whether or not it's appropriate to be drinking rum, what time they should adjourn, and ridiculous subjects like that, we are being invaded in the city of New York. At this time, as I speak in June, General Howe is on Staten Island with more than 20,000 soldiers, British and Hessian soldiers, about 22,000, I think, in numbers. General Washington is here on our island of York, or you call it Manhattan Island in New York, and he has half that number. And the two groups couldn't be more different. General Washington's men are poorly clothed, poorly fed, poorly equipped, poorly trained, and have no idea how to fight a war. They have a lot of spirit, I'll give them that, but they're undisciplined and have no idea what they are doing. General Howe's forces on Staten Island are some of the best trained, best equipped professional soldiers in the world, including thousands of mercenaries from Hesse, or you would say Germany. To make matters worse, recently the Royal Fleet has arrived, 500 ships strong. They have our island surrounded, both in the sea, in the Sound, in the Hudson, and in the harbor. Aboard these ships are another approximately 20,000 soldiers. And the commander of the Navy, Lord Admiral Richard Howe, has claimed he is about to unleash the full force and fury of the British Empire against New York. Maybe General Washington will, at full force, still have about half of the 42,000 the British have. Now, the British have us surrounded on the land, they have us surrounded on the water, they have us out moneyed, out trained, out equipped, out everything, and our delegates to Philadelphia still cannot see the importance of proclaiming our independence from the crown. As much as I admire Misters Livingston, Jay, and Duane, I still do not understand what they are thinking and how they have not yet seen the light. I'm sure all of their, excuse me, my doggy's walking back and forth. I'm sure that their colleagues have written to them extensively about what we are facing here in New York, that we are about to be invaded by the English, and yet they still cannot seem to support independence. And this, I'm sure, is a result of our complicated and ridiculous politics of the colony of New York, with which I will not bore you, because truly, in order to understand it, you may need to drink an entire bottle of Madeira wine before your mind can accept the ridiculousness of our politics here in New York. So here we are. The royal mayor and the royal governor have been banished to a ship in the harbor. The British have us surrounded. General Washington is desperate for men and supplies. The Howe brothers are ready to move, and New York still abstains from voting in Philadelphia. This is a complete mystery to me. In the meantime, Washington's men from around the country are pouring into the town in the hopes of defending our little island against the full force and fury of the British Empire. What is happening in Philadelphia? The Southerners are still lackadaisical about this and seem to believe that this is a Northern problem, and because they have always been so honorable and supportive of the crown, that the crown won't possibly invade them or use the military against them. To that, I say they are utterly delusional. They are delusional. What does it take? We have had 10 years of oppression. We have had 10 years of military occupation. What does it take for our Southern brothers and sisters to understand this? Indeed, what does it take for our own New York Provincial Assembly to understand this? I certainly don't know. Mr. Q and I are strong Whigs. We 100% support separation from England, and we are every day frustrated that our own delegation cannot seem to understand this. I have heard that it is the opinion of our delegation. I have actually heard a few different things. One, I have heard it's the opinion of our delegation that there is still time to find a redress of grievances. In other words, there is still time for us to come to a mutually beneficial agreement with England. I ask you, with 500 warships, 42,000 soldiers, an endless number of guns, how can anyone think that looking at that there is still an opportunity for a mutually beneficial agreement? I don't know what these gentlemen are drinking in the evening. The other word I hear, and this is more plausible, is that since our New York Assembly has not given them any instructions on how to vote, they feel that they must wait until they know the will of the people. But I'll tell you, my friends, if they are going to wait for this assembly, which is just about half loyal and half rebel to make any kind of decision, well, I'm sure the rest of the colonies will have declared their independence long before New York joins them, because I just don't see that as being something that will happen anytime soon here. We are bitterly divided in New York, and we are pretty much 50-50 divided. Half of us for independence, half of us to remain. Since our assembly is made up of the same numbers of people, or the same thinking, about half and half, it's very likely that our assembly will ever send instructions to our delegates. And all of them, of course, being honorable men of the law, think of it as their duty to wait until they are instructed. But I say that these gentlemen should do the brave thing and should step forward and vote their conscience, which I know on behalf of all three, through their wives and sisters and daughters, speaking to them, that their conscience is for independence. So here we are stuck. Things are dire. The English have ruined Massachusetts, and they are now here prepared to do the same to us, prepared to destroy our farms, our homes, our docks, everything, prepared to come through here in a massive wave of brutality and warfare and make us submit. And still, there is no vote in Philadelphia. It's a puzzling thing to all of us here. We sit here and we wait for something every day and we hear nothing. We are very frustrated and we are very worried that we are not safe. At least if we have a unanimous vote for independence, we know that the other colonies are going to come in support. But for now, without any formal declaration, how do we know that anyone will come to aid us when the British invade? And we know that there are men, I see them every day, coming from all over the colonies, primarily from the northern colonies and from the frontier, the riflemen and the militias coming to join us. But we are going to need the full support of the entire eastern seaboard from New England to Georgia if we are going to survive this invasion. And I tell you, surely they are not stopping at New York. They will come through here and they will continue on. I don't know how anyone can't see this. I know people don't want to listen to us ladies because this isn't our purview, things like politics and things like strategy and people and things like warfare. But I think it's clear for anyone to see what is coming. So we sit here every day, the city filling with Washington's unruly soldiers, more and more ships moving. And why, a friend of mine from Brooklyn recently said that she thought she could walk from Brooklyn to New Jersey across the decks of the ship in the harbor, that they were packed in so close together. And it is a sight. If you walk to the battery at night and see the lights on the masts of the ship, why, it looks like a city is out there floating at sea. It's a horrifying view, and this is only a part of the Navy that is here. Our friends in Long Island are menaced daily by the ships in the Long Island Sound and the troops that have come to occupy the towns on the North Shore. They are menaced daily in Staten Island. Oh my goodness, the stories coming from Staten Island. I recently had a lady in my shop who said her cousin in Staten Island was cooking at the hearth, and two officers, English officers, came in and, how shall I say this, inappropriately grabbed her. She shoved them out of the way, took the ladle out of the soup that she was making and threw it in the face of one of the officers. He turned just in time, so she only hit the side of his face and his neck, but it burned all of the skin and hair off of the back of his head and neck. And at that time, she ran out of her house for safety. I am hearing even worse attacks than this on the ladies and the girls of Staten Island, on the part of the British regulars and Hessians. What is it going to take? Surely our delegation to the Continental Congress is receiving these letters as well. I can't imagine they're not hearing these stories as we are hearing them. I know it seems like New York is a long way from Staten Island, but it's just a ferry ride across the harbor. And if these things are happening in Staten Island, surely they'll be happening in Brooklyn when the British go to Brooklyn, and they will be happening right here around or even in my home if they come here. I do not understand this. Mr. Livingston is from New Jersey, and clearly his family in New Jersey has been telling him about this. His brother, Mr. Livingston, from the Hudson Valley, I'm sure he's getting warnings. Mr. Duane from here in the city, I am sure his wife is telling him. And Mr. J, well, I'm sure Sarah Livingston J is telling him as well. So I really don't see how it is that it is June and we still have no movement in Philadelphia toward a unanimous agreement on independence. At this point, we can no longer be afraid to fight because we must fight. We can't look for a redress of grievances. Look at how much we would have to give up. How much would we have to give up in order to satisfy England at this point? How much? We have no idea. Certainly, we would have to submit to a fully occupying army, more monopolies in trade on various items that would affect all business people like me, importers, exporters, merchants, and shopkeepers. There is no end to the demands England would make on us if we were to try to negotiate with them at this time. There is no going back. This must be done. We must declare our independence unanimously, join together, and fight against what is coming. I don't know what's taking them so long. I understand Mr. Adams' frustration. I understand his frustration. I read about it in the papers all the time. His speeches, his frustration. I read about Mr. Franklin's frustration and Rhode Island's frustration, Delaware's frustration at the rest of us. It seems New York has joined the South in this for some reason. I don't know why, in being so reticent to do what at this point must be done. Now, why is the British military at New York? Of course, it is to continue on through the rest of the colonies. But my friends, consider the strategic location of this island. This island is fully accessible directly from the Atlantic Ocean. Very easy for the Navy to come in. It's a large deep water port, accommodates the largest of British warships. We also have two waterways. We have the Hudson River that goes north to the interior of this land, and we have the East River, which travels up and out into the Long Island Sound, providing access to Long Island's North Shore and New England, a very strategic spot. If the English are going to fight a long battle against us, they must have a base of operation. And that base of operation, I believe, will be this island, as does the commander himself, General Washington, which is the reason he is here. So the English are here. In order to surround this island and take possession of it in order to build a base for further operation. And if they are building a base in New York, where are they going? Well, they're not going back to New England. They must be going west and south. Of course, they're going west and south. So this base here is to further their adventures in the colonies. It's clear to anyone. Why else would they want this island? Well, if they do declare independency in Philadelphia, well, I guess there is no going back, and the English certainly will want to punish us for doing that. So the base will be necessary, of course, to fan out and punish everyone. The base is also an excellent place from which to mount an attack on Philadelphia, which certainly will come if our delegates there vote for independence. So also excellent place in order to mount that attack on Philadelphia, which I think anybody would know would certainly be coming if such a document were to come out of Philadelphia. Also, is this an attempt to trap General Washington's army? Are the British coming in, surrounding us, in order to bring General Washington and all of his available forces onto the island, where they might surround the island, trap him on it, and destroy General Washington and all of his forces here and end everything? Is that a possibility? That is what they are attempting to do. They certainly have the capability of doing that. And I think I read somewhere in Mr. Rivington's paper that, what is his name? Their Minister of War, Lord Germain. I think I did read that Lord Germain said in the Parliament that that is exactly the reason he has given the Howe brothers so much money, equipment, and support in order to bring the Americans onto the island, to trap them here, and to defeat them here on the island. If I know that, and it's in Mr. Rivington's paper, I'm sure His Excellency knows it as well and has a plan of escape to remove himself from this island if necessary. But that will be an interesting strategy to watch play out as the months go by. So we see both sides want to take New York. The English want to take New York to use it for their forward operating base. It's only logical that they would want a place like that. And of course, the Commander-in-Chief, His Excellency George Washington, wants to hold New York against the British because for the same reason, it is a good operating base for him. So I don't think it will be very long until the two forces come to blows here and this will be settled. What will happen to me, I don't know. I am assuming I will have to leave my home, my lovely home here, and have to flee the island, and have to flee the island. So we'll see how that all plays out. I'm going to take a quick look here and see if there are any questions. Oh, and someone just entered on Zoom, so just give me a second here. To admit the person who came in and make myself big. And please enter any comments or questions you have in Facebook or YouTube. Was Mr. Franklin a loyalist and or in Britain? Mr. Franklin was the colonial agent representing Pennsylvania in Britain, and he tried very hard for many years to find an agreement with England, but at this time he supports independency. Do you know that Mr. Franklin has voted with the Congress to have his son, William Franklin, the royal governor of New Jersey, arrested and imprisoned in Connecticut? And so William Franklin has been imprisoned in Connecticut, and at the request of his own father. So some very difficult times going on for Mr. Franklin and his son. And of course, we all wish them well and hope that they will find a way to reconcile their differences. So for now, even though Mr. Franklin tried his best, he has turned against the crown and supports independence at this time. Mr. White is congratulating me on my DAR award. For those of you who don't know, I won an award from the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution for my preservation and teaching of American history. So that was very nice. And thank you to all my sisters in the DAR. I cannot be in the DAR, so this is the next best thing to being there. See if we have any other questions. People seem to like what I am talking about. Okay, great. Oh, someone else just came in on Zoom. Everyone's coming in late on Zoom. I wonder why. So that is our story of 1776. So we have the political timeline that we all learn about in school, or you all learn about in school. We have the political timeline, which surrounds the Continental Congress and the debate over whether to declare our independence and nationhood separate from England. And of course, there are many considerations there. One of the considerations, and I think that this is one of the reasons Mr. Franklin is pushing for this, is that Mr. Franklin knows that if we do not declare ourselves a separate nation and independent from England, England's rivals and enemies will not support us, as England and the European countries have an unspoken agreement that they do not interfere in their internal problems. So if this is seen as only an internal problem, we will not get support from England's enemies and rivals. But if we declare ourselves an independent, legally separate nation, Mr. Franklin and others can go out as diplomats and seek support from England's rivals, France, Spain, Holland, Portugal, and other places. So that is another consideration for declaring our separation from England that will afford us some money and hopefully some troops, maybe some naval ships, and some help from England's enemies, who one can only guess would be incredibly happy to help England lose. It will only strengthen their own positions against England. So we have the political timeline occurring in Philadelphia to the south of me. And we have the military timeline that is unfolding here in New York, and what in your time will be called the Battle of New York, which will play out over the year 1776, over the summer, with the British now surrounding the island, moving warships, moving troops in, with the hopes of taking Manhattan Island. The ultimate goal being to destroy His Excellency and his army, and if not that, then to take the island to use as a forward operating base throughout the rest of the foreseen conflict. So we have these two timelines, equally important, happening in our land in the summer of 1776. And I hope you'll consider both of them of equal importance, because they do complement each other. With the military, Washington's army eventually will have to defend any document that comes out of Philadelphia, and the British, of course, will attack as a result of any document coming out of Philadelphia. So both sides, in anticipation of that, are massing here and are moving on to some other locations as well. And for those of you who came late, I want to recommend this excellent book again, Revolutionary Summer by Joseph Ellis. It's not very long by Joseph Ellis standards. It's a nice, readable book for you to read this summer, all about the summer of 1776. It's very readable and it's very good. And here on the cover is from the Battle of Long Island, the stand at the Old Stone House, which will be coming up in August. And I haven't heard about it, but I believe I will probably be there again for the reenactment this summer in August at the Old Stone House. So do any of you have any questions? Is that the thing I can go see at the cemetery in August? It's part of that. The Old Stone House is one event that takes place, and the other event takes place in Evergreen Cemetery in Brooklyn. So yes, that's to Mr. Laureate. Michael, I can't see your last name well here. Yes, those are the things taking place in August. From Mrs. McCabe, she says, it must have been terrifying for the residents of Manhattan to see the British troop buildup. There was a lot to consider in this situation. Thanks for explaining it so clearly. People on the island were terrified, and in June of 1776, people are already leaving. They're already going to the docks with their belongings and leaving. Anyone at this time who has family in the general region, in the Hudson Valley, in New Jersey, or on Long Island, are already departing the island. It wouldn't surprise me if General Washington issues an order for all of us to leave. Mr. Q is getting ready to join Washington's army, which means I will not have him here, which is another consideration to make, and that most likely I will have to leave as well, although I really have not been seriously considering that yet, although I probably should be. Where I would go, I'm still not sure. I know that I would be welcome with friends on the eastern part of Long Island in Setauket. I know my friends in Setauket would welcome me there, and I know my friends in the Hudson Valley in Haverstraw would welcome me there, and my sister in Albany, I'm sure, would welcome me there. So I'm not sure where I would go, and you know, it is a horrible thought to think of leaving my lovely home that I have worked on for so many years to make so comfortable and so nice for Mr. Q and me, and for you, our guests. And it really is a terrible thought to leave and to know that I don't know when or if I would ever be back. So for now, I'm not really contemplating that. But I am just trying to think of all of the things that are going on and my commitment to explaining them all to you. But as the summer goes on, I'm sure, you know, we'll be talking more about what my plans will be as things here get a little bit more difficult to endure. So I hope you have all enjoyed joining me tonight. And as I mentioned, I'll have another short or reel coming out pretty much right after I'm finished with this, all about the biggest social event of the war, the Mesquianza. It'd be very interesting. And if you didn't hear me say so before, please support my History in a New York Minute series on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm trying to make it a regular thing that people look for. It's a great way to learn American history in just 1 minute. And I try to make them entertaining and informative for you. And you'll just learn a whole lot of interesting things you may not have known before. Mrs. McCabe wants to know who would look after my home and business if I leave. Well, I am loath to say so, but I'm sure that my home, since it is so nice, would very likely be occupied by British soldiers, most likely officers. I'm sure it would be occupied by British officers and their servants or their slaves, and that they would just make use of it as they would see fit. So, a very heartbreaking idea, but better than being here under a potential British occupation, wouldn't it? Which would be a nightmarish scenario, something I definitely would not want. So I'm sure that that would be the fate of my home. And at some point when we expel them from this land and I would return, I would guess that Mr. Q and I would have to rebuild it. But it would be ours. The English would be gone and the nation would be ours. So it would be well worth the expense and the time and the difficulty of rebuilding everything. I believe. What? Oh, he hasn't said it yet. He hasn't said it yet. I was thinking of Mr. Payne when he said, what we achieve too easily, we value too lightly. And it's only through hard work that we find something that is valuable to us. So I can leave you with that thought that we achieve too easily, we value too lightly. So I'll end that as our thought for this week. I hope to see all of you next Friday again and to see you on various social media. I'm also going to be releasing more long form videos on YouTube. Those of you who remember, I did over 24 episodes of the Travel Channel's Mysteries at the Museum as my normal self, not as this self. And using that format, I'm going to start releasing, I think, 1, maybe 2 videos a week based on that Mysteries at the Museum format. It's a 6-minute format with an introduction, some storytelling, video and pictures, and a conclusion. And each of them are about one specific place or item. So I will be doing that all about things here in the city of New York in the 17th and 18th century. So look for that. That'll be starting hopefully this weekend or early next week. I'll have the first one out. So you Mysteries at the Museum fans, you'll be familiar with the format I'll be using. And I'll be doing those, I think, as my regular self. But I will still be here on Fridays as Mrs. Q for you. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a safe journey home this evening. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And maybe I'll have a little bit of my jacket completed that you can see. So thank you all very much. Good night. Have a wonderful evening, a healthy and safe week. And I will see you back here in my home next Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Good night.